Trustees, the time is now 5:08. I ask that you remain silent while staff starts the live stream. Oh, that's, we're good. Good. Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 5:09 p.m. Staff has pulled closed session agenda item G2, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release, Resolution number 2324-11C. Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Bullicus. Here. Trustee Davis is absent. Trustee Jones. Here. Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Hanachek.
Here.
Trustee Parham.
Here.
Trustee Castellanos is absent.
Mrs. Hayes, before the board recesses to closed session, is there anyone who would like to speak to a closed session agenda item?
There are none.
The board will now recess to closed session to address the following agenda items: student expulsions, student readmissions, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. There was one case, 5 cases, and 2 cases of those 3. And conference with labor negotiators, CUEA, CSEA, Teamsters, UMA, unrepresented employees. Employee discipline dismissal release, 1 case. Public employee employment appointment, principal elementary school, principal high school, and executive director, college and career advantage. And liability claim, 1 case. The board will now recess to closed session.
Vice President Parham. Live stream is now in progress. You can turn your mic, start the meeting now.
Good evening and welcome to the June 12th, 2024 regular board meeting of the Capistrano Unified School District. The meeting is now in session. The time is 7:05 p.m. Tonight we have Spanish interpreters attending this evening's board meeting, and they are available to anyone in the back of the room. Tenemos asistencia de intérpretes en español disponible. Please note, on agenda item 12K, amendment number 1, employment agreement between the Board of Trustees of Capistrano Unified School District and Dr. Christopher Brown, Superintendent. The title has a typo and should read as, quote, July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2028, end quote. Please note, staff has pulled agenda item 15F, training program contract with Anti-Defamation League. Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Bullicus. Here. Trustee Davis is absent. Trustee Jones. Here. Trustee Pritchard.
Present.
Trustee Hanachek.
Here.
Trustee Parham.
Here.
Trustee Castellanos is absent.
The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Trustee Jones. Be so kind.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Moved by Trustee Hanachek, seconded by Trustee Bullicus. Mrs. Hayes, a motion, Mrs. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis is absent. Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Parham.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent.
Motion carries 502 by roll call vote to adopt the agenda. Mrs. Hayes, please read the report out in closed session.
On agenda items A1 through A4, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following cases. Case number 2024-027, 2024-028, 2024-030, and 2024-031. On agenda items B1 through B3, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following cases. Case 2023-001, case number 2024-002, and case number 2024-005. On agenda item C1, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Case number 50620821.1. On agenda items D1 through D5, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following cases. ADR case numbers 20240425, 20240426, 20240430, 20240520, and 20240523. On agenda item E1 and E2, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following cases. Case number 2023-100898 and case number 2024-010625. On agenda item 3F, conference with labor negotiators, no reportable action. On agenda item G1, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Resolution number 232410C. On agenda items H1, trustees voted 502 to appoint Ricky Belshi, principal, Moulton Elementary, effective July 1, 2024. On agenda item H2, trustees voted 502 to appoint Brittany Casey, principal, Dana Hills High School, effective July 1, 2024. On agenda item H2, trustees voted 502 to appoint Sina Abedzadeh, principal, San Juan Hills High School, effective July 1, 2024. On agenda items Trustees voted 502 to appoint Chris Carter, Executive Director, College and Career Advantage. And that's
Now let's clap.
Great decisions.
You have one final report from closed session. On agenda item I1, trustees voted 502 to approve staff recommendation on the following case. Claim number 2412153. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
That took all the fun out of the really cool announcement, but congratulations to those people. Now we'll move on to superintendent report, Dr. Brown.
Good evening and welcome to the final Board of Trustees meeting for the 2023-2024 school year. It's interesting to think back 12 months. 12 months ago, I was sitting out there as an attendee at this meeting, waiting to be announced as the new superintendent, or hopefully be announced as we came out of closed session. It's very incredible what a difference 12 months can make as we go from sitting out there to now sitting up here. And I now have the experience and perspective of spending a year working with the outstanding faculty and staff of CUSD, interacting with our remarkable students, engaging with our parents and community members. It's been a busy year. It's been a challenging year. But every meeting, every discussion, every performance and event that I've attended has really helped me to solidify that this was the right decision to leave where I was and come to CUSD. And it's a decision I'm very glad that I made. And 2023-24 was a year full of accomplishments, honors, celebrations. And as we close this year, I wanted to highlight a few of the things that were accomplished at our schools. We had 6 middle schools earn California Distinguished School recognition. And I can't put too fine a point on that. In the past, California Distinguished Schools was an application process, and how you completed that application really mattered. It's not applied for anymore. You have to earn it with your data, with your gap closures, with your student achievement. You don't get to just make a nice application. So the fact that we have 6 middle schools that earned it is incredible. Bernice Sierra Middle School and Marco Forster Middle School were named model PLC schools for the year. The Orange County Department of Education named 4 of our schools as outstanding PAL programs. Bernice Sierra's Middle School, Ladera Ranch Middle School, Las Flores K School, and Palisades Elementary School. PAL program supports skill development in the areas of leadership, communication, team building, and problem solving. It's the Peer Assistance League, so it's students helping other students. The Mandarin Immersion program at Bergson had its first graduating class. Students who started the program in kindergarten finally graduated as seniors after completing the program at Capistrano Valley High School. It's remarkable. CUSD started an intramural sports program for middle schools. We had thousands of students participate in soccer, basketball, volleyball at lunch, and play against each other in school versus school competitions held throughout the district. Dana Hills High School celebrated its 50th anniversary, and they broke ground on a new modern classroom building. CUSD and CCA opened a state-of-the-art esports classroom, one of a kind really, at Tesoro High School, as well as new career centers at middle schools throughout the district to help our middle school students start thinking about life after high school. We partnered with Chalk to open student wellness rooms at San Juan Hills High School and Marco Forster Middle School. San Clemente High School earned the distinction as an avid national demonstration school this year. For the 2nd year in a row, the OC Artist of the Year in Theater came from Capo. So congratulations to Mackenzie Cahill from Capo Valley for that. And then to cap it off, just last week, we had 4,000 CUSD graduates get ready to move on with their life and take on their post-secondary options. We had tens of thousands of students who moved to the next grade or moved to the next school as they continue their journey in Capo. And if you missed any of it on our Instagram feed, you can go on to CUSDinsider.org to see pictures of all the high school graduations and the smiling families and the smiling students. So as I wrap up the end of this rewarding year, I just wanted to express my deepest gratitude for the teachers, the classified employees, the administrators, and the district leaders, including the executive team over here, for making this year the best of my career so far. As a leader, I really can't ask for a better organization to be a part of. And I'm already excited, much to the chagrin of my executive team, and already started planning for next year and all the things we want to accomplish. So I'm keeping them busy already. That ends my report.
Thank you. Trustees, any comments? Trustee Bullets?
Well, I just want to dovetail and say we're thrilled that you're with us, and thank you for hanging in there with us for a full year, and very excited about the things that lie ahead under the superintendent, Dr. Brown's administration style, management, his approachability, his good listening, his leadership. We are a great school district, and we're even going to get better. It's going to be very exciting. May was just an exceptional month. It always is, with the awards and ceremonies, the 5th grade promotions and the 8th grade And the graduation, I was at Tesoro. And this year I knew so many of the students graduating. So, and thank you to those families for sending me your students' graduation cards. That was really fun to get in the mail. And so here we are, summertime. We'll be here each month as our staff. We want to support all of their endeavors and give approvals to the things that they are preparing for starting off the fall season. And I would just like to thank all of our district staff for a really great year. Job well done, and very exciting where we're going forward. Those are my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Jones?
Oh, shoot, I've been closed. I don't remember who it was, the last meeting, asked, us to all go out on the web and endorse SB 1504, which requires that social media companies disclose their cyberbullying reporting procedures. I did, endorse that, or I guess I endorsed it, or I sent a letter to the author. And I wanted, whoever it was that brought this up may not know that it passed the Senate on May 21st on the consent calendar. And generally when something passes on consent, that gives it an easy path to the other house. So I think there's a good chance that will be adopted. The other thing that was mentioned last month was SB 1414, making child trafficking a felony in California. Passed the Senate May 23rd on consent. And once again, I think there's a really good chance that that will pass the Assembly. So I really appreciate people bringing those things to my attention, and I do watch them, and I wanted to make sure that whoever it was brought it forward knew what happened. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any other trustees? No? Okay, we will move on to oral communication. The total time for oral communication shall be 20 minutes. Individual presentations are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual, but could be less if there are a large number of speakers. Complaints regarding district employees should be addressed by completing the district's formal complaint form available through the district website. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for oral communications?
We do. I have 13 cards, so we'll set the timer for 1 minute each.
Okay.
For members of the audience, I will call you up, and so I ask that the first 5 people line up. Kanan Durham, Pam, Shan, Benjamin Kelly, Mary, and Lisa. This is actually number 6. Please go ahead and state your name so we can stay on track with the order of the speakers. Go.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Kanan Durham. I'm here from Pride at the Pier, and we're here, Pride at the Pier, I'm here to comment on a action that Trustee Davis took recently. She signed on to a letter from her position as a trustee from Capo Unified School District opposing the safety bill, or AB 1955, which is a bill that would outlaw forced outing policies across California. So we are here just as looking to speak on the fact that this is not a popular policy across California. Obviously, this board did reject forced outing policies, and there's a number of folks across school boards in California that have been recalled, who have lost their races, et cetera, who have taken this stance and made it a large part of their platform. So as it's Pride Month, I know she's not here, but I hope that Trustee Davis will reconsider her platform and make sure that she's supporting all of her students, including LGBTQ students. Thank you.
The next speaker is Pam.
Pam, you are board members of a very successful business. You have a cash cow and a win-win situation. You have received funding from our state, from our federal government, and our taxpayers. Your base is solid. You have captive consumers of 13 years and multifamily consumers of up to 25. You are a family-backed operation. You have the strongest supportive system in the entire world, the family unit. But disaster has hit. In the May report from the superintendent, you had lost 10,000 consumers. Your budget had decreased by $120 million. You're facing employee cuts, and your strong family support system is slowly abandoning you. Instead of supporting the family unit, you are choosing to support the small minority of consumers. A critical business question: will you change your support?
Our next speaker is Jen.
Good evening, Mr. Parham. I'm a constituent in your area. I'm requesting an email clarification explanation regarding Capo's gender support plan that does not require parental consent or knowledge. The district has confirmed that this is not a district policy, but rather a guidance plan. Therefore, I'd like a detailed explanation as to how this quote unquote plan was approved by Capo USD and why parents were not formally informed. Currently, Assembly Bill 1955 has passed both the Public Education and Appropriations Committees. It will make line to parents and teaching kids to keep secrets from parents legal, absolving activist teachers from any role they play in helping socially gender transition public school children, and removing local control from school board trustees. Safe adults don't teach kids to lie to parents. Thank you to Lisa Davis and Judy Bluckus for your letter in opposition to AB 1955. If that is clear that you also signed it, I know that Lisa did. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Benjamin.
At worst, it's truly the most sinister hubris one person can inflict upon another. Not to simply take away the agency and decision-making capability of an individual, but to take away the most precious God-given responsibility a parent can have, the direct care and upbringing of their very own children. At best, it's the most self-deceived ignorance by a group of locally elected officials that I can think of, and should give no parent a moment of confidence or comfort in whom they have entrusted and elected for the betterment of their children's education. Even the most simple and narrowest of proposals on parental notification brought before this board last October was soundly defeated. The examples are endless, but in short, we as Capistrano Unified School District parents need to be asking ourselves, is it at best self-deceived ignorance by the CUSD board, or is it at worst a sinister hubris? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary, and the unions control public schools today. Bullying, intimidation, drowning out debate, causing division, isolation, and polarization of the teachers. What happened to the educational triangle, the child, the parent, the teacher? The union wants to out the parent and dissenting teachers. AB 1955 is part of all of that. The unions bring in a tidy $327 million non-tax dollars. Think about what that could do to education. And 89% of that money goes to liberal causes when only about half of the teachers are represented. Most of them are conservative, about 60%. So that is completely inappropriate. Parental rights are what we expect with our children. Critical educators have replaced academic educators, and critical educators followed George Lucas, who found the fast track towards sexualizing the children was a quick way to reboot a generation, to turn things from a conservative to a cultural Marxist organization.
Congratulations to those of you on the school board who voted against the boldly proposed by Lisa Davis parental notification policy. In less than a year, you have advanced from being called groomers to child mutilation activists to the supporters of a queer pedagogy, a queer cult religion, which is an affront to anything traditional, normal, acceptable, or even admirable on principle. Queer is not an identity, nor is it a sexual behavior to be protected by lying to parents. There is no such thing as outing. Parents, not you, know what's best for their children and have the constitutional right to safeguard their parental rights. Even if a heinous gutting them in bill, AB 1955, does pass in Sacramento. God willing, we will see a change in the school board's makeup this November.
I'm going to call the next group of speakers. Coming up in the following order: Shireen Smith, Barbara, Walt Baxter, Candace, Amber Smith, Susie Taylor, and Jean. Shereen, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Dr. Shereen Smith, former Capistrano teacher and principal of Aliso Viejo Middle School, Capo Valley High School, and retired superintendent of Laguna Beach Unified. I wanted to share with you how excited I am about two of your recent appointments. First, kudos for choosing Chris Carter to be Executive Director of College and Career Advantage. As a stellar high school principal, he understands how important career tech education is for our students. He will lead CCA to new heights, I am sure. I'm also excited that you've appointed Dr. Brad Baker as the next San Clemente High School principal. He is a caring and accomplished leader who is a perfect fit for our community. We can be confident in his vision and leadership going forward. I was going to mention something about hopefully we all would hire some women to run the high schools because we've had a dearth of female high school principals the past few years. So kudos, Dr. Brown, and to the board for hiring women to lead two of our high schools. Thank you.
Barbara, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Barbara. I'm a parent to two CUSD students, and I am a taxpayer and homeowner in the district. So I have a vested interest in your work here. I just wanted to let you know that our elementary school had a wonderful year. We had Hispanic Heritage Celebration. We had our end of year carnival. We have our marine bio lab, which is thriving, and we have sea creatures from the Ocean Institute that the kids can learn and practice their science skills there. We're also building a learning and sensory garden that encompasses capabilities for our E&F students that have joined our school. As a working professional mom, I want you to know that I appreciate the wonderful, dedicated, caring, moral, and intelligent staff and teachers at our school. And please support them and all our students as you do your work here and make your decisions next year. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Walt Baxter.
Hi, I'm a 25-year, San Clemente resident, parent of an alum from San Clemente High School, and just wanted to double down on what the previous speaker had to say about Chris Carter and his service to our community. Our son was a student under Chris's direction there at San Clemente High School. He was a phenomenal principal. I know he'll do a great job in the district here as well, but just wanted to take a second to thank him for his service and really do appreciate all of the great things he did. Amongst all of the other things that Mr. Carter led the school through, including a pandemic. I remember in 2018 where there was a particularly tense time when the Parkland shooting had happened in Florida. Students were pretty upset and wanted to get together and demonstrate. And Mr. Carter showed the foresight to sit down with some student leaders, talk it out, and give the students space to express their emotions without making a giant deal out of it. So I just really appreciate Mr. Carter's leadership. Thank you, guys.
The next speaker is Tremendous.
Hi, I'm the parent of two kids in Lisa Davis's area, and I understand that she is now using her platform as a trustee on this board to try to shut down AB 1955. I'd like to ask once again that she please stop spending her time and our money on her personal politics and focus instead on enhancing our children's education. The role of a school district and its board members is to educate students, not to manufacture problems and stoke the fire on culture wars or attempt to sidestep state law. If she needs suggestions on where to redirect her energy, we are currently facing $8 billion in state budget cuts. Perhaps she could be lobbying Sacramento for more funding instead. Thank you.
Before I start, if there's any children in the room, their parents might not want them to hear this. Can we give them some time to leave? I mean, it's an assignment in our school. I'm good? Okay. Okay, so this is The Kite Runner. It's an assignment at Dana High School by Gail Sturtz. I'm gonna read a little bit to you. I knew your mother. Did you know that? I knew her real good. I took her from behind by that creek over there. What a tight little sugary C word she had. The soldier was saying, shaking hands with the others grinning. Another excerpt. All I want you weaklings to do is hold him down. Can you manage that? Asef knelt behind Hassan, put his hands on Hassan's hips and lifted his bare buttocks. He kept one hand on Hassan's back and undid his own belt buckle with his free hand. He unzipped his jeans, dropped his underwear. He positioned himself behind Hassan. Hassan didn't struggle, didn't even whimper. Another part, I pretended I hadn't heard the crack in his voice, just like I pretended I hadn't seen the dark stain in the seat of his pants or those tiny drops that fell from between his legs and stained the snow black. Did that teacher ever consider that maybe one of those students have been raped or molested and that they shouldn't have to sit in a classroom and be assigned a grade for reading this?
The next speaker is Susie Taylor.
Hi, I'm Susie. I have two children in the district. One actually just graduated and one going into high school. First, I wanted to congratulate the board, say thank you to Michael Parham for a fabulous job at San Juan Hills High School graduation. It was incredible. You guys were extremely well organized. It went very smoothly, especially as that's my first graduation. So kudos to you guys. Also kudos to Dr. Mahindrakar, who is no longer our principal, which I'm very sad about. We're excited to meet the new principal, but what a fabulous job he did as our principal, caring about all the students. I also wanted to, Lisa's not here and I will definitely send an email or do whatever I have to do, but my son graduated from 8th grade at Vista Del Mar, and she was hugging every single student as they walked on stage, and it was very uncomfortable. So I'll reach out again.
Your next speaker is Jean. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name's Gene. Well, it feels to me like our schools are operating under a educational feudalism where the overlords of the state are pushing policies that isolate or separate children from their parents, as you've heard, AB 1955. The district tells us that it cares for and protects our children, yet provides education materials that introduce children to gender ideology, teaching them to be sexually active, as you heard, and while exposing them to pornographic materials, as you heard. By removing parents and not disclosing issues that affect the child, the district is not protecting the child, but is harming the child. You are fostering deceit. We stand here as peasant parents month after month asking that you help us stay informed with critical issues affecting our children. Protecting parents' rights is essential for protecting children. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to open the public hearing regarding Journey School Charter Material Revision. The time is now 7:33. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:34. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing regarding Special Education Local Plan Area, SELPA 2024-25 Local Plan, Sections D and E, Annual Service Plan and Annual Budget Plan. The time is now 7:35. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards? I'm going to reopen the public hearing on 11A. Public hearing Journey School Charter Material Revision. At this time, I'd like to open it and the time is now 7:36. Would Mr. Gavin Keller, Executive Director representing Journey School, please come to the podium, state your name and introduce the presentation for this evening. Staff will now set the table for the charter schools to the presentation.
Good evening, CUSD Board of Trustees and CUSD staff members. My name is Gavin Keller. I'm the Executive Director of Journey School. Journey School was the first charter authorized by CUSD 24 years ago. In that initial petition in 2000 and in the 4 renewal petitions that followed over the course of our history, Journey's plan for special education has remained the same. Simply put, we operate our special education program as a school in the CUSD SELPA and are considered a school of the district as it relates to special education programming, special education procedures, special education staff members, as well as services and supports. First, I'd like to simply share my immense gratitude to CUSD for your partnership and in recognition of your special education department. I've worked at Journey as the executive director for the last 11 years. And in that time, the various CUSD staff members that have served the Journey students have been hardworking. They've been creative. They've been dedicated to ensuring the educational benefit of the students who attend Journey. It's been a pleasure collaborating with CUSD in this regard, and we remain impressed with your professional and caring and effective approach to special education services across the district. Secondly, as you know, Journey School is a unique charter. We're inspired by the core principles of public Waldorf education. In developing our strategic plan for the future and our vision, we've re-envisioned our plan for special education, specifically to align programming directly with the educational philosophy that Journey is founded upon. To that end, we have submitted a charter with material revisions for your consideration this evening at item 12D. The proposed revisions indicate that Journey School would exit the CUSD SELPA and become our own local education agency as it relates to the provision of special education services, having recently attained membership in the El Dorado County Charter SELPA. If approved this evening, Journey School would no longer participate in the district SELPA effective July 1st, 2024, and the district would then have no obligation to provide any special education services at Journey. In closing, and on behalf of the directors at Journey School staff, Journey School families, and Journey School students, we thank you for your consideration of the material revisions this evening. We thank you for your continued support of charters across this district and the importance of school of choice. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Keller, and I apologize for skipping your presentation. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:39. Next item. At this time, I would like to open the public hearing regarding Special Education Local Plan Area SELPA 2024-25 Local Plan, Sections D and E, Annual Service Plan and Annual Budget Plan. Time is now 7:40. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for the public hearing? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. The time is now 7:41. Moving on to item 12, discussion item. May I have a motion to approve the 2024-25 Local Control Accountability Plan and Local Indicators Report? Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Jones. So roll call. Any discussion by the trustees? Okay. I'd like to recognize Dr. Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent Education Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham. Staff presents item 13A, 2024-2025 Local Control Accountability Plan and Local Indicator Report. We first presented this item to you at the May 15th, 2024 board meeting for your feedback. We return this evening with the finalized plan for your consideration. Executive Director Michael Gomez and I are here to answer any questions you may have, and staff recommends approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Next item, 12B. May I have a motion to adopt the 2024-25 budget?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Jones. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham, trustees. So this is the proposed budget for 2024-25. There are no changes from the budget preview presented to the board by Assistant Superintendent Philip Townsend at the May meeting. As mentioned at that meeting, this budget includes a fiscal solvency statement to address the impacts of declining enrollment. And any changes to the state budget that impacts this budget will be reflected in a revised budget. That's the budget saying that a lot of times at the August meeting, and staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? Discussion. I'll just make one comment. I think earlier it was mentioned that several $100 million were cut, and that 10,000 students were lost. That's not over the last year or the last couple of years. I think it's a lot further back that you have to look to there. Is that right?
That was back from the Great Recession.
Yeah. So 14, 15 years.
Yeah, from starting in 2009, 10 to 12, 13. When I was that.
So, and I'd like to just comment that I think the work that your team has done on putting together the budget for 2024-25 has been outstanding. A lot of great communication. We've had a couple of board meetings where we've discussed it publicly. And I think you've done a fantastic job in difficult circumstances to put together a budget. Trustees, any other comments?
I have a couple
Hey,
of.
Jones?
Yes, first, I think we were taking comments out of order on the last time, and I just wanted to thank Dr. Gomez for his provisions to the LCAP, and particularly I gave some input to that, and I appreciate his consideration of that, and I think that there's a good plan ahead. But I also wanted to talk about this. Trustee Bullicus and I have been advocating for the state budget. I know that this is kind of inside baseball, but there have been some cuts proposed by governor. The governor was trying to do something that is widely considered to would have been unconstitutional because it violates Prop 98, which was passed by the voters in 1988, and he was trying to take that away. So Trustee Bullicus and I have met with several legislators or their staffs, Assemblywoman Diane Dixon, Assemblywoman Lori Davies, Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez, and Senator Catherine Blakespear. We talked to each one of them or one of their staff members and got some very good feedback and some very supportive words. And I was really happy with the responses we got from members of the legislature that we talked to. And it's still a little unclear what has been agreed upon. The Assembly and the Senate have to vote on a budget by, I think it's Friday, the 15th, is that Friday? So there's still a few hours left, and as memory serves, they're often working late into the night on the last day, and then of course the governor has to sign it. It's not really clear what's going to happen, but it looks as though it's going to be a pretty good outcome, and the governor is not going to try to do something unconstitutional, and that funds are going to be found for education. So I appreciate working with Trustee Bullicus on this. We have a lot of fun working together. We are a great team. We talk a lot. We come up with ideas and work on things we're going to say. And it's been a real pleasure working with her. And again, I appreciate her, and I appreciate our members of the legislature. Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I don't know, do we need to call roll or? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Moving on to 12C. Special Education Local Plan Area 2024-25 local plan, sections D and E, annual service plan and annual budget plan. May I have a motion to approve the 2024-25 special education local plan area annual service plan and annual budget?
So moved.
Second, moved by trustee Bullock, seconded by trustee Hanachek. I'd like to recognize Dr. Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham. Staff presents item 12C, SELPA area 2024-2025 local plan, sections D and E, annual service plan, and annual budget plan. Assistant Superintendent of Special Education Clint Collins and I are here to assist with any questions you may have. Staff recommends approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. 12D, material revision to Journey School Charter. Please note that Journey School Charter will get the same amount of time as district staff to present this item. May I have a motion to approve the material revision to Journey School Charter?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Jones. I'll recognize Dr. Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services, to present the item. Colleen, set the timer to count the length of time. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice President Parham. As you heard earlier, Journey School submitted a material revision to change their special education local plan area, also known as SELPA. Journey's governing board supports the SELPA change and approved the submission of the request for material revision to the district at its March 28th, 2024 regularly scheduled meeting. So in the red line version of the charter petition, the following edits have been made. All references to the district SELPA have been replaced with El Dorado County Charter SELPA. And reasonably comprehensive descriptions of any new requirements of charter schools that have been enacted into law after the charter was originally granted or last renewed have also been added. So the changes to the Journey School petition were carefully reviewed by legal staff and our own staff. Staff recommends the Board of Trustees approve the material revision to the charter of Journey Charter School. Thank you.
I would like to invite Mr. Keller, representing Journey School Charter, to come up to the podium. If there is additional information to present, would the charter school representative like to use this additional time? Thank you. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Next item, 12E, resolution number 2324-35, establishing a target reserve level. May I have a motion to adopt resolution number 2324-35, establishing a target reserve level?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bullock, seconded by trustee Hanachek, and I'll recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham, trustees. So as trustees know, the state of California requires districts the size of Capistrano Unified to maintain minimum reserve level of 2% of the total general fund expenditures. And as the economy fluctuates, it's difficult to ensure continuity of programs when reserve levels are at the absolute minimum, or if that's considered the target reserve level. This resolution establishes a target reserve level of 4%, and the 4% is a target only and will not be a required reserve level like the state minimum reserve of 2%. So the actual reserve may be above or below this target based on current projected economic conditions. So it's just something that we would fluctuate around. And we always have that little bit of cushion between the 2% and the 4%. Staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? So you may think I'm a rookie, but I know because it's a resolution, we've got to do a roll call. Well, discussion is first, of course, which I knew that. I will move to trustee Jones for discussion.
So interestingly, the legislature's budget also recommends going from a 10% of the general fund, rainy day fund to 20% or up to 20%, which it now can't do for some reason that I don't understand. But I think that's a really good idea. And I also think this is a good idea, and I commend the staff for recommending it.
Any other discussion? Okay, Ms. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Bullockis.
Aye.
Trustee Davis is absent. Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Hannachek.
Aye.
Trustee Parham.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent.
Motion carries 502. Next item, 12F. May I have a motion to approve the award of request for proposals number 2-2324, Educational Community Engagement and Survey Platform, Panorama Education Incorporated.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bullockis, seconded by trustee Hannachek. I'd like to recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, trustees. So this item is for a comprehensive survey tool that can be customized and used as needed throughout the year. In order to reach out to district stakeholders, we can survey students, parents, teachers, staff, and community members on a regular basis. This tool will also allow for student wellness check-ins, and if it proves to be effective, will replace other tools currently being piloted in the school district. This survey tool was selected after a rigorous RFP process led by Chief Technology Officer Stephanie Amara. We are here to answer any of your questions, and staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards? For discussion, I'll start. I'm always a little bit leery of, new apps, new programs. Can you talk a little bit about how this was vetted in comparison to the other items?
I'll ask Stephanie Amara, Chief Technology Officer, to give you a thumbnail of the RFP process.
So we sent out for a request for a proposal. We published it in late February. We had 4 vendors submit a proposal. And then we had the 4 vendors either present virtually or in person to a designated team at the district office, which included Associate Superintendent Greg Merwin, Deputy Superintendent Clark Hampton, myself, and a few others from Ed Leadership. And so we went through the entire demo for all 4 vendors. Then we created a checklist and went through their proposals and scored them according to the rubric. And we got some feedback and got them to answer some questions that we needed further clarification on. And then we scored them. And when the scoring came back, the scoring rubric came back, Panorama was the highest score of all the RFPs. And so we presented it to Dr. Brown and to the other at leadership and to cabinet, and then we're bringing here to you for approval.
I can add a little bit for you as well, Mr. Parham. So Panorama is a program that's used by many districts throughout the state of California. It's not a new vendor. It's not a vendor that would be unique to us. Actually, because of my experience with Panorama, I purposely was not on the RFP process nor on the scoring process because I have used them in my previous position. They were the vendor for Long Beach Unified as well. In addition to being able to create surveys, what Panorama does is it creates an entire data dashboard that's accessible by teachers, administrators, so that schools can actually work on. So many of our goals that we talk about are about student well-being, student safety, community engagement, right? And if we know we're reaching those goals, we have to be able to collect data on, are we engaging in the community? Are our students feeling like they belong to our schools more? Are the initiatives that our schools are rolling out actually working? And the schools have to be able to pull their students. And so we didn't have a tool that could do that. Instead, we had across our system multiple disparate tools we used for surveying different types. We had Qualtrics, we had Google Forms, we had a few different things. This would allow us to consolidate all of those things into one tool, have ongoing data, look at trends over time, gather data year by year. It would allow the district to roll out surveys, but it would also allow individual schools, if they're working on something, to roll out a 5-question survey to their parents after an event, those types of things. So it puts a lot of data together. It also ties with our current data system. So a lot of the time students spend answering questions about stuff we already know. We wouldn't have to spend time doing that. So it's a pretty robust educational survey tool. It would also allow us to do our employee surveys that we now use another platform for. And then it has a program similar to Sown to Grow that we will pilot this year alongside Sown to Grow, which is grant funded. Because our teachers, if you remember from the presentation from CUSD Cares last month, they were very fond of the Sown to Grow pilot and they liked what it was doing for the schools. So we want to make sure we keep that. But when that grant money runs out, we needed to have a replacement available or continue to fund Sown to Grow, which in a time of budget austerity could be a challenge. So this will allow us to pilot the two side by side as well. So Panorama is a pretty robust program.
Great, and I'm glad that we're not a guinea pig. It sounds like a lot of people are doing it. Okay.
I just have a brief comment. I thank you for your time, Dr. Brown. I had questions on this as well. So ultimately, your board looking for something that's going to be more effective. And then ultimately, I believe it will be more cost effective if it comes forward. Because Paul Trex, as much as I was thrilled that we brought that on board, I know that's quite expensive. So if this plays out the way you're projecting and then your experiences it'll benefit on those both areas, right?
Yeah, so for the suite of programs that it would replace, the cost would actually be lower to use Panorama than the suite that we're currently paying for.
Just for further clarification, because in the past, we've had a lot of conversation about surveys that we take. Now, is this a platform where we have to use their surveys? Do we get to create our surveys? Can you comment a little bit on that? Because we're talking about different surveys for employees, for community involved.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons we went with an RFP for these types of vendors was we needed both, right? So we needed a vendor that could provide certain vetted surveys that might be required by state agencies, for example. We needed a vendor that could provide valid, reliable questions that had been vetted and researched. But we also needed a vendor that would allow us to write our own surveys and create our own questions, which is what's called ad hoc surveying. So Panorama does both, actually. So we can write our own surveys, we can tweak our own questions. We can also pull from their question banks of surveys that are questions that have been shown to be data-wise, reliable, and valid. And then we can also use their surveys that are vetted by the government agencies that require it. So it does kind of all of those things.
And to a further extent, can they provide a survey that would take place of chicks?
So not for the next 3 years, under which we have a grant that requires the use of chicks. But after that, if the board so chose, we could use a survey from Panorama.
Just to clarify, Panorama is a recognized vetted service with the state of California.
Yes.
For that particular need.
Yes, for the survey data that the state requires us to submit that currently comes through chicks, Panorama does have a California approved vetted survey.
So I wonder if Ms. Silvera could tell us who the other vendors were?
One was called Qualtrics, one was Custom Insights, and one was K-12 Insights.
Okay. I'm going to take a moment and since Trustee Davis isn't here, I'm going to channel her for a moment because about a year ago, Trustee Davis and Trustee Bulkus and I were at a meeting in San Diego, the Activity Directors Association, CATA, yes, CATA, and Trustee Hanachik was there, but she wasn't in the conversation, this particular conversation. Trustee Davis's sister-in-law came over who works at another school and was touting Panorama. We were talking about surveys. And I got pretty interested in it at the time, and I know Trustee Davis looked into it a little bit, and I think that she would probably be very happy that we are adopting Panorama because she and I talked about it quite a lot at the time. So I'm sorry she's not here to be witnessing this, but I'm sure she's read it in the agenda.
Any other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item, may I have a motion to approve the Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Bolka, seconded by trustee Jones. I will recognize Dr. Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education Support Services, to present that.
Thank you very much, Vice President Parham. Staff presents item 12G, Arts and Music in Schools Funding Annual Report. This is a new annual action item we'll be bringing to the board. Executive Director Michael Gomez and I are here to assist with any questions and staff recommend.
Do we have any speaker cards?
I just have a quick comment. I would like to thank Dr. Presby. I asked him a while back, some of our young teachers, elementary teachers who were not getting jobs, what could they do? And you mentioned you should go ahead and get your arts credential. And because several of the young people that I know did, they will be starting their fall with us. So I want to thank you for that advice, and I'll be able to pass that on to them. And I'm really excited because we do need as many of those folks, since all school districts, right, are going after the same people. So thank you for that advice. And I'm so proud of that young woman for pursuing that.
Thank you, and kudos to the HR team who've done a great job hiring people to fill the gaps that we have. So it's on top of that. All those in favor or more discussion?
I have a question.
Trustee.
So what we have here is an allocation for this year. Is this going to be the same plan for 2024, 2025? I know we have the 6 new elementary school music teachers.
Correct, we're adding art teachers to elementary. That'll be in 24-25, and that will be included in the report that we present to you next year to give you that annual report. But Dr. Gomez, would you like to share any details on that?
Sure. Several of the secondary schools are adding additional positions for that. The one immediately comes to mind is at Capistrano Valley High School. They're looking to add a part-time mariachi teacher that's being exclusively funded through their Prop 28 fund. So schools are getting very creative about finding these different programs. There's a very broad category of arts that this applies to. And so as we've gotten more regulations from the states and guidelines, then we kind of have a better clear picture of what we can spend the money on and what we can't. And so really principals are taking that to heart and really just how can we expand our VAP programs. And so we anticipate quite a bit of action in our arts and music grant funding.
So it was my understanding that principals had the autonomy to figure out for their own school how to spend the money. With this Prop 28, do we foresee, because there's different ways it could be spent in the years ahead, that we might then spend it differently? I mean, we'll learn some things in terms of whether those 6 elementary music teachers was the best way. And whether we need more or spend it differently or on equipment or field trips. Will we have that flexibility then going forward, or is the money going to increase, or will the principals always have that same amount of money each year from Prop 28?
The funding level will stay relatively similar because it's basically 1% of what has been set aside at the state level for what they're giving K-12 education. And then there's a formula that it ties in enrollment on top of how many high need students that the school has. And so every school gets a little bit different, but it's constitutionally protected that it's 1% of whatever the state is giving kind of K-12 through Prop 98 funds. In terms of how the funds are used, we can make adjustments to, we decided art this year or music this year. And so the principals have flexibility on, we want to add this program, or, this wasn't as effective as we thought. We can make changes on that, or we can add music, or we can add art, or we can add dance and those kinds of things. Luckily, every year that the funding is allocated, we actually have 3 years to spend that particular. So the funds that we received this year, obviously we didn't spend them all. But we have 3 years to spend that out. And then we get a new allocation next year to add to that part.
Thank you. I would like to add at the end of the year, end of next school year, maybe we could get a recap. This is what each, school, well, I don't know if it's hard to do by school, but some of the major programs where we saw successes, money well spent, and some things we might change, but This is new to us, Prop 28, and, you know, the arts and performing arts is very important to us. I would love to hear back how we're doing. Thank you.
We're happy to do that.
And just for some clarity, changes won't be immediate. There are some interesting caveats in Prop 28 that I'm sure that Michael could clarify for me, but 80%, I believe, of the funding has to be spent on staff, right? So it's not like we can use all of the funding for field trips. And the challenge becomes, because there's an enrollment level piece to it, some of the elementary schools get such small amounts that they can't actually get staff, but they have to spend 80% on staff. So then they have to pool their resources across multiple sites. And so while we can make changes, and as we get more guidance, we will, it won't be super flexible to change year over year drastically because of that requirement that 80% of it is funding staffing, which is why Dr. Presby recommended getting your arts credential, because 80% of this money has to be used to hire credentialed art teachers. So we will have to work within those paradigms as we go through the process.
Have we clarified that if so needed or wanted, that every school could all put in together towards a person? So if we wanted some other, like a mariachi person for the entire district or something like that.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of pooling of funds, especially at the elementary level, where we've added additional music teachers or instructional assistants music. But we also have gotten very creative with the high school principals, where they've decided, oh, it'd be a great idea for us to share a position. There's a classified position for that I want to say 3 schools are sharing. Aliso Miguel, San Juan Hills, and Tesoro High School are sharing a position. So instead of creating these little positions at each of their schools, they decided we're going to go bigger and be able to get, I want to say, a 30-hour position that the 3 of those schools share. So there is the availability to share between schools, and that's a really effective way to use smaller pots of money and make a bigger impact for that.
Well, if I may add, it's my understanding in speaking to the music teachers, we get better quality when we can offer those full-time jobs, because these students that are graduating with music degrees, they can't sustain themselves on a 20-hour part-time job. So I think that's really wise for us to do that and to create the full-time professionals job. Thank you.
I just want to echo, I think it's a great idea to have a recap at the end of the year for Trustee Bullock's comment. I even think maybe putting something on the website that talks about, you know, what we're doing with this funding could be helpful to the community. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0-2. Moving on to 12H. This is an information item only, and no board action is necessary. I'll recognize Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham, trustees. Because as trustees know, after significant housing development in the 1980s and 90s, the district reached its peak enrollment in 2009, and as expected, has been declining as a result of lower birth rates and students aging out of the district. In preparation for this phase, we ensured facility policies were updated in the last year, formed a board-appointed district advisory committee to review district school capacity and enrollment projections and provide recommendations to trustees. These meetings were all held in public and were Brown Act meetings. The item before you tonight is the committee's recommendation. Specifically, the report recommends 10 elementary schools be further studied relating to enrollment projections and programs offered. Rob Murray with King Consultant, who is here tonight, assisted district staff in facilitating the committee meetings. This is an information item only for the board to receive the committee's recommendations. Thank you.
And if the board will remember, we presented in the spring about what was ongoing. We shared the data that the DAC was seeing as well. I forget which board meeting that was at. March or April, maybe. Where we presented the same data that the DAC was looking at.
That
we presented, there's a slide.
Yes.
Yes. So this is just the final report based on the data that you saw earlier in the spring.
Ms. Hayes, are there any speaker cards?
Have a couple of comments. So we don't have any physically something to look at. We board members were able to read it and looked at found it very interesting looking at those schools and populations that some that had no portables, some that still had portables. So there were so many different dynamics that the committee was tasked to look at. And I think, why don't you clarify for us what it means when you say they've identified X amount of schools for further, what did you say, further investigation or further consideration? So what could that look like with further consideration?
So as I mentioned in my comments, it's looking at enrollment projections district-wide, but in focusing on these particular schools that are either highly over-enrolled or highly under-enrolled, and looking at programs offered, and is there a balancing act that can occur to balance out the enrollment in the school sites in a more effective way, and then looking at potentially schools that might not, it could be repurposed for other things that the district may need.
So we're a large district, so there's a myriad of things, because we still have programs at the old district office. We have things all over the place, so that's the work then we'll be tasked to look at there. Okay, so I really appreciate the work of this committee, and I really appreciate the minutes that you presented to the board. That's the most thorough that we've had, because from our past committees. And I do want to thank Mrs. Korkendorfer. Usually she would have been sitting up here. There was that time. And thank you for your continued service to CUSD. I so appreciate it. I know we all do. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm looking through this to see the name of the company that we're working with.
Consulting.
King Consulting. As trustee Hanachek had said, we had different companies in the past, or a different company.
Right, there was a
2023.
Right, we had a consultant earlier that we were working with, and we switched.
I just want to share that my appointee has given me a lot of feedback. And from what I can tell, this committee has been truly terrific at asking a lot of good questions. And the King Company has been very good in responding and bringing back that material right away. And has prompted a lot of good conversation, a lot of open-minded thinking. And I know I've sent back some comments, looking at schools, and you can't just look at this size when you've got special ed there, because every type of education has different needs for students and all. So I just think the dialogue has been really strong, very effective. I've received good feedback, and I look forward to further conversation from this committee and the work that staff is doing with King, and appreciate this process. Thank you.
Shows the power of community input and involvement.
I would also like to thank my appointee and all the appointees to that committee. It's a lot of work that's coming, and I think that's where they're really going to be digging in. And I look forward to that effort. It's going to take a lot of good minds to figure out some of the decisions we need to make. So we really rely on their expertise with the consultant, but also the input from all of our appointees. So thank them for their service as well. Okay, that was just an informational item, so we'll move on to item 12I. May I have a motion to approve instructional materials recommended for adoption by the Instructional Materials Review Committee? Moved by trustee Hanachek. There's a second? I'll second. I'll recognize Dr. Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education Support Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham. Staff presents item 12I, instructional materials recommended for adoption by the Instructional Materials Review Committee. Assistant Superintendent Carrie Johnson is here to assist with any questions. Staff recommends approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards?
We have 3 speaker cards this evening for this item. I'll ask the speakers to go ahead and line up. Michelle Colossal Campbell, Heather Puhak, and Amber Smith.
Good evening. I am so excited to see high school health finally make it here. I have been talking about this for about the last year and a half since my Now a kid who just finished 10th grade was going through health. I am so excited to see that we are replacing a textbook from 2004 with one in 2024. That's the longest curriculum cycle I've ever seen in education in California, other than maybe some of our novels. So please approve this today so that these books can be in place for our students who are starting health on August 20th. Thank you so much.
Heather?
I'm Heather and I'm a San Clemente grad and I have a couple of kids in the school district. We are living in a time where there's so much focus on sex and sexual orientation. Our children are bombarded with suggestive images and videos everywhere they turn. Many parents are trying to limit this exposure and teach their kids what they feel is appropriate, what aligns with their morals, and at what time they feel it is age appropriate for their child. That's the beautiful thing about this country, is that we have the freedom to do so. I want to ask that the board consider doing what you can when you can to allow parents to opt their children out of any and all sexual content. We are seeing it in state mandated sexual education, and we are seeing it in books chosen for literature projects. Every child is unique and their maturity level and experiences must be taken into consideration prior to this exposure. This should only be the responsibility of the parents. It's also why it's critical to keep parents in the loop regarding what's going on at school. Thank you to Lisa Davis and Judy Blockus for your public opposition to AB 1955. This bill would restrict your ability to do your jobs as members of the board. This bill is another example of state overreach and is creeping down into school districts. Schools should be a safe place for all children. My hope is that the 2024-2025 school year will bring a greater focus on the education that really matters: reading, writing, math, and science. Thank you.
Amber?
Okay, this is in regards to the health class and the slides that we're going to be seeing if you even show them tonight. So in your efforts to promote inclusivity and understanding, you must tread carefully when it comes to teaching concepts like gender fluidity to children. While it's essential to foster acceptance and respect for all individuals, introducing complex ideas about gender identity at a young age can be confusing and potentially harmful. Children's minds are still developing. They are not fully developed until the age of 25, and they need clear, stable frameworks to navigate the world around them. Introducing concepts like gender fluidity and hormones to change one's gender prematurely may lead to confusion and unnecessary stress, as children may struggle to grasp these abstract ideas. Moreover, parents have the right to import their values and beliefs to their children, and introducing concepts like gender fluidity in schools can undermine parental authority. By prioritizing age-appropriate education and respecting parental rights, we can foster a more inclusive society while ensuring that children of all ages are supported in their development in a responsible manner. A big thank you as well to Judy and Lisa for voting yes for the parental notification policy last October, as well as opposing AB 1955. We need transparency between teachers and parents. Children need their parents. We are the ones that are there for them 12 months out of the year, from 24 hours a day, not just 8 to 3, couple hours per class. We are the ones that are going to get our children the help that they need if they need it. So thank you very much for that.
I also want to thank the committee members of the IMRC. They put in a lot of work and they deal with a lot of these difficult issues, all of them. And I think sometimes those discussions get quite heated and they put up with a lot. So hopefully they can continue their work and maintain a professionalism and decorum in that committee. So with that discussion.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the IMRC members. They have to read a lot of materials and it's very robust work and very appreciative of that. So obviously I was a parent in this district. It was a long time ago. I sympathize with Michelle Possible-Campbell's desire for something more relevant and current and that better serves the students, prepare them for the rapidly changing world. So how we always have it available for parents to view our curriculum. So Can you walk us through that? What does that look like? How do we do that? I want to now see this curriculum before it's launched. How do we do that?
Yeah, so before any curriculum comes to the board, it's always available at our IMC upstairs for at least 30 days. We usually do it for an extended period before that. So for at least 30 days where it's available during business hours for any committee member or parent to come in and review any of our curriculum that is being recommended for adoption before the board.
And once it's adopted.
Then it is still always available upstairs in the IMC. So all actual adopted materials it's a huge bookshelf right there in the IMC that anybody can come in and review during business hours, any of our curriculum, adopted curriculum.
Thank you very much.
Question. We're often asked this. Can you please explain why it's only during business hours where there may be a dual family working? And that we have to have parents come to the district office. Is there a reason why there can't be a link on our website or something that is sent to parents that they can view in their homes?
So the titles for all of our adoptive curriculum are available on the website, but because of copyright issues, we couldn't actually publish the materials online for everyone to access. And so, but we can make arrangements. I know that Becca often will make arrangements with parents. Or we can even make arrangements for parents to review materials if it's a struggle for them to get access to it. But these materials specifically are usually at the school sites to review before we take it forward for approval.
Okay, so it's not just at the district office, but all school sites.
Sorry, specifically for the comprehensive sexual health, we made it available at the sites.
At the high schools, because this
Yes.
is for high school.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve Jones.
So, I actually did go and look at these 3 items. Well, the math is 3 grades in itself. And I'm really not a teacher. I'm not able to evaluate, math instruction. I can't even get through German 1 anymore, even though I took German in college. But I did look at it. However, I looked pretty extensively at the health books, and I really like what they're doing in this series. There is one book that's a hardcover book that is the everything except the child lessons, what we would call sex ed lessons. And there's a separate book that's a little thinner and it's soft cover that is all of the child lessons. So I really like that because if it's in one book, even if the students don't have to go through it in class, it's still there. And they're taking the book home and they can see it. And if the parents don't want them to see it, that there's no way to prevent that. But in the way that it's been done in this publication, it's 2 separate books. So if your parents have not opted you out, then you get both books. If your parents did opt you out, you only get the more basic book. And I think that's fabulous. I think our parents will be very happy with it. It just totally divides Chaya out, which I think has been kind of confusing in the interim when we were trying to implement the law, but we didn't really have the material. So I'm really happy with this. I talked to one IMRC member who was also very happy with it. And I had worked with her when we first brought Chaya in, and she was not happy with how Chaya was implemented in this district. But she said, this is fabulous. This is exactly how it should be done. So I thank the staff for bringing that forward.
And I'd just like to add a piece. Usually when we have IMRC items on the board agenda, the materials are also in the back of the room. So I believe these 3 items are actually in the back of the room right now. So we also put them in board meetings, which is after business.
So you might, if you're leaving, maybe look at those on the way out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Moving on to 12J, may I have a motion to adopt Board Policy 4040, employee use of technology on the first reading and waive the second reading?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Jones. I will recognize Dr. Bob Presby, Associate Superintendent, Human Resource Services, to present the item.
Thank you, Vice President Parham and trustees. Staff presents item 12J, Board Policy 4040, Employee Use of Technology. This is updating our current board policy to include a definition of district technology, confidentiality, appropriate posting of information, the monitoring of district technology, legal aspects of using personal devices for district business, and reporting security problems or misuse of technology. Staff recommends approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards? And with this being a waiving of the second reading, we have to do it as a voice vote, as a roll call. A roll call. It doesn't? Has to be unanimous, okay. So then we'll do it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah. Motion carries 5-0-2. Item 12K. May I have a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the contract for employment agreement of superintendent between the district and Dr. Christopher Brown, superintendent?
So moved. Second.
I think everyone wants to move in second. I'll give it to Judy. Moved by trustee Bullock, seconded by trustee Hanachek. And I will read this. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and or fringe benefit increase as set forth in the proposed amendment number 1 to the contract for employment of superintendent between the Capistrano Unified School District and Dr. Christopher Brown. Summary is as follows. The term of the employment contract between the district and superintendent is extended through June 30th, 2028, adding a 1-year extension to the contract. I recommend the board approve amendment number 1 to the employment agreement between the Board of Trustees and Dr. Brown. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0-2. Item 12L. May I have a motion to approve amendment number 8 to the amended contract for employment agreement with Clark Hampton, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Support Services?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Jones. I'll recognize Dr. Christopher Brown, superintendent, to present the item.
Thank you. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and or fringe benefit increases set forth in the proposed amendment number 8 to contract for employment of deputy superintendent between the Capistrano Unified School District and Mr. Clark Hampton. Amendment number 8 makes the following changes to the deputy superintendent's contract. The term of the amended employment contract between the district and the deputy superintendent, business and support services is extended through June 30th, 2028, adding a 1-year extension to the contract. Increases the salary of the deputy superintendent by the same percentage and subject to the same contingency as other employee groups. Salary for 2023-2024 shall be $321,186, retroactive to July 1st, 2023. Provides a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 1% of the deputy superintendent's annual salary for 2023-2024 school year. Salary for the 2024-2025 school year shall be $322,214, subject to a potential increase at the conclusion of negotiations with the certificated and classified bargaining units. After October 14th, 2024, the deputy superintendent shall receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 1% of the deputy superintendent's annual salary as established for the 2024-2025 school year, keeps all other provisions of this contract and subsequent amendments in effect. I recommend the board approve amendment number 8 to the contract for employment of the deputy superintendent.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this?
Or none.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0-2. Next item 12M. May I have a motion to approve amendment number 3 to the amended contract for employment agreement with Greg Merwin, Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Bullock, seconded by trustee Jones. I'll recognize Dr. Christopher Brown, superintendent, to present the item.
Thank you. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and/or fringe benefit increase as set forth in the proposed contract for employment of Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services between the Capistrano Unified School District and Dr. Greg Merman. Amendment number 3 makes the following changes to the Associate Superintendent, Education and Student Support Services contract. The term of the amended employment contract between the district and the Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services is extended through June 30th, 2028, adding a 1-year extension to the contract. Increases the salary of the Associate Superintendent by the same percentage and subject to the same contingency as other employee groups. The salary for 2023-2024 shall be $269,311, retroactive to July 1st, 2023. Provides a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 1% of the Associate Superintendent, Education and Student Support Services annual salary for the 2023-2024 school year. The salary for the 2024-2025 school year shall be $270,173, subject to a potential increase at the conclusion of negotiations with the certificated and classified bargaining units. After October 14th, 2024, the Associate Superintendent, Education and Student Support Services shall receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 1% of the Associate Superintendent, Education and Student Support Services annual salary as established for the 2024-2025 school year. Keeps all of the provisions of his contract and subsequent amendments in effect. I recommend the board approve amendment number 3 to the contract for employment with the Associate Superintendent, Education and Support Services.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this item? Okay, discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Next item 12N. Amendment number 2 to amended contract for employment of Associate Superintendent, Human Resource Services. May I have a motion to approve amendment number 2 to the amended contract for employment with Dr. Robert Presby, Associate Superintendent, Human Resource Services?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Bullicus, seconded by Trustee Pritchard. And I'll recognize Dr. Christopher Brown, Superintendent, to present the item.
Thank you. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision C3, the board provides this oral summary of the salary and/or fringe benefit increase as set forth in the proposed contract for employment of Associate Superintendent, Human Resource Services between the Capistrano Unified School District and Bob Presby. Amendment number 2 makes the following changes to the Associate Superintendent, Human Resources Services contract. The term of the amended employment contract between the district and the Associate Superintendent, Human Resource Services is extended through June 30th, 2028, adding a 2-year extension to the contract. The salary for the 2023-2024 year shall be $254,096, retroactive to July 1st, 2023. Provides a one-time off-schedule payment of 1% of the Associate Superintendent Human Resources Services annual salary for the 2023-2024 school year. Salary for 2024-2025 shall be $259,991, subject to a potential increase at the conclusion of negotiations with the certificated and classified bargaining units. After October 14th, 2024, the Associate Superintendent Human Resource Services shall receive a one-time off-schedule payment equal to 1% of the Associate Superintendent Human Resource Services annual salary as established in the 2024-2025 school year. Keeps all other provisions of his contract and subsequent amendments in effect. I recommend the board approve amendment number 2 to the contract for employment of the Associate Superintendent Human Resource Services.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards?
There are none.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 502. Item 12O, may I have a motion to approve trustee remuneration?
Second.
Moved by Trustee Jones, seconded by Trustee Bullicus. I'll recognize Dr. Christopher Brown, Superintendent, to present the item.
Item 12O presents the resolution for trustee remuneration, which increases the trustee stipend as provided in board policy, which sets the trustee stipend to be similar to those received by other, the increase in trustee stipend to be similar to those received by other labor groups with a cap at no more than 5%. So this would increase trustee remuneration by 3% for the 2023-24 school year and 0.32% for the 2024-2025 school year. Staff recommends approval.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this?
There are none.
Discussion?
That's a comment. So thank you, Mrs. Hayes, for charging my memory on this as we've sat here. Most of the time, obviously, this is a stipend. You don't sit up here and get rich doing this. So it's pretty much a volunteer job. And it ebbs and flows. And I remember a time, I think it was in 2010 or 11, where we all took a pay cut up here, including the superintendent. So it kind of goes along with the state budget and what school districts are experiencing. So what she did remind me is this, we changed the policy, I think in 2020, that we tied it this way, and Colleen explained that most school districts in California do tie any raise for their board members in this manner. So so that was very helpful for me, because I didn't remember tying it in with the structure of the teachers bargaining unit. So just personally, right now we're in insecure financial times, so this isn't, I could care less about this. So that's just where I stand there, but that's just kind of a little history lesson of what, as we've sat up here on this.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries 4-1-2. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Please note, for board policy 9323 and in accordance with law, the public has a right to comment on any consent item. The request of any member of the board, any item on the consent agenda shall be removed and given individual consideration for action as a regular agenda item. Each speaker is allotted between 1 and 3 minutes per item, depending on the number of individuals who have presented requests to speak. Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards for this?
We have 2 for this item. Michelle Colossal Campbell and Rhonda Whalen.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board of Trustees. It's been my distinct pleasure to be the CUC PTSA president this year. And you have heard me many times, and I've had many substitutes this year when meetings I couldn't be, talking about the donation of funds. So this is my last one for this fiscal year, but I'll be back in August. During the past month, PTAs and PTSAs have donated through the district gift account funds in the total of $227,350.98, in addition to funds directly paid to vendors and for events at school sites. These funds paid for non-instructional materials, office and teacher supplies, walking ropes, student planners, meet the masters, art supplies, library books, science camp, technology at sites, field trips for both the first and second grades, lots of buses for field trips for all grades, sponsorship for the Teacher of the Year celebration, computer monitors and projectors at 2 sites, and assemblies such as Walk Through the American Revolution. As we come to the end of the fiscal year for the schools and PTAs, this past year, the PTAs of Capistrano Unified donated through the gift account a total of $1,494,599.37. In addition to the financial contributions made to our school sites, we volunteered for 291,583 hours for the 23-24 year. At the hourly rate for volunteer time in California, which is currently rated at $37.32 per hour. According to the volunteer time report listed by state and compiled by the independentsector.org, that is a value of $10,881,887. Wait, let me start that one again. $10,881,887.56 in time donated to Capistrano Unified this year by our volunteers. This brings the total value of donations of time and financial support to over $12.3 million by the 52 units that make up CUC PTSA. We are proud of our partnership we have with our schools and our communities, and look forward to another great year in 2024-2025 to promote the excellence of Capistrano Unified Public Schools, working in partnership with our parents and communities. Please mark your calendars now to join your local PTAs in August when school resumes. We look forward to working with you again next year. Thank you.
Mrs. Hayes, do we have any speaker cards?
We do. We
Oh, there's one more. Sorry, Rhonda.
Next speaker is Rhonda Whitman.
In a hurry, right? So I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the contract items that you're about to vote on. We really appreciate the collaboration that's gone on with the district. It was a really happy day when we finally got to the end and we saw these things on the board agenda. That means we really did our job. I want to thank the district's team for their creativity and collaboration with us as we went through negotiations. It's not always easy, but we did end up getting through the rough patches and getting to some agreements that I think we're all very proud of. So please vote for them.
Do the trustees have any consent items they would like to take? Okay, may I have a motion to approve consent calendar items 14A through 17C?
Second.
Moved by trustee Hanachek, seconded by trustee Bullicus. With the exception of agenda item 15F that was pulled by staff. Ms. Hayes, please call the roll.
Trustee Bullicus.
Aye.
Trustee Davis is absent. Trustee Jones. Aye. Trustee Pritchard.
Aye.
Trustee Hanachek.
Aye.
Trustee Parham.
Aye.
Trustee Castellanos is absent.
Motion carries 502 by roll call vote to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 15F. And now,
Trustee Parham. Vice President Parham, I have a point of order. On the board policy 4040 that was passed by a unanimous vote, because all members weren't present, we will need to put that on the consent calendar at the next meeting. So thank you, Trustee Jones, for catching that. It's per board policy 9311.
but not only has to be unanimous, it has to be
All members present.
unanimous of everyone.
Yeah. Yes, so it'll come back on consent for a second reading.
Thank you. Thank you, trustee Jones, for keeping us in line. Okay, do we have a motion by trustee Hanachek and a second by trustee Bullicus to adjourn? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 502 to adjourn the meeting. The time is now 8:43.